Hello everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome along if you are new. Then please don't forget to hit that subscribe and join in with the fun. We put a lot of videos out. There's not been so many lately due to the ridiculously hot weather, but things will be back to normal soon, I'm sure. So here we have this brand new release from Airfix. This is the 1/35th scale Alvis FV622 Stalwart Mark II. I did a review of this kit yesterday and I've received some very positive comments. Thank you very much for those. One thing I did miss in the kit, which is a bit of a shame, these light guards here, they've moulded them in solid plastic, which is a bit of a shame. So they're either going to need to be replacing with photo etch, or someone will probably come up with 3D printed resin ones, or you can just rework the plastic ones yourself. So there we go. Nothing stopping you building the model. I mean, it's like the two disappointments for me are these light guards and the exhaust shield. The exhaust shield is made out of clear plastic, so you can get the effect of it being a mesh, but unfortunately it won't work because it's too thick. I'll probably just replace it with a piece of scrap photo etch. These here, you could make them out of photo etch strip if you really wanted to, but as I say, there's nothing to stop you building the model. You can completely finish it, weather it, everything, just leave that off and leave those off, and then when the parts, aftermarket parts come, stick them on. So there you go. Right, now this video is aimed at not beginners, but aimed at people who may not know how to deal with issues with the injection molded kits and stuff, such as ejector pin marks and sink marks. Now there's been a lot of talk about sink marks on this kit. Somebody did actually comment that they've seen online it's getting a hammering. I can't find anything that's giving it a hammering online. I've seen, there are 4 reviews that I know of on YouTube. There's Moss's, there's mine, and there's 2 others. The 2 others have given it a bit of a kicking, probably rightfully so, because certainly the quality of the kit, certainly in one of those reviewers' videos, is nothing like the quality that Moss and I have got. It's just happened that way. Moss is not sent specially selected kits. I bought this from Jadlam. This was taken off the top of the pallet that arrived at Jadlam on Wednesday afternoon. It was wrapped up personally by Matt, thank you very much Matt, and it was posted to me, and as I showed you in the review, it was still sealed. So what I'm doing, I've got the parts here off the sprue, and these are the parts that are the worst affected with the shrinkage. And shrinkage is basically caused where I explained this in the review video. Let me put this light on above so you can see better. You can see here we have this front panel, and what I've done, I've gone over very lightly with a sort of worn 400 grit sanding stick and lightly sanded it so you can see where there's a shiny bit, like here, okay, just there, you can see where there's a low spot. Okay, now that doesn't really need any work. That is not going to show up under a coat of matte paint, and even if it does, that would be classed as like normal distortion on sheet metal parts on a truck like this. So not going to worry about that too much. But what's causing it, okay, you can see on the back here we have these demister vents. So obviously if you could cut through this, you measure that section there, say that's 1mm thick there, well there it's 2mm thick or 2.5mm. So plastic shrinks as it cures. It will shrink by a percentage rate, but as I said in my review, let's just take a ridiculous figure like 10%. If this is 1mm thick here, that section there will shrink by 0.1mm. But here it's 2mm, so it will shrink by 0.2mm. So you'll get a 0.1 divot in the surface. There are other reasons for shrinkage that I'm not going to go into in too much detail, but basically it's a curing thing. If you pack the mold with more pressure, you have more likeliness of flash, and this kit does have a little bit of flash on it, I must admit. There was some flash all around here that I've cleaned up, around those vents that's been cleaned up. But basically, if you pack the mold with more pressure and then increase your curing time, then you will get less shrinkage. That's it, all about it. But even Tamiya gets shrinkage, so you know, I'm not going to give them a hard time of it. If I had the kit that one of the other reviewers has got, I probably would be sending it back, to be honest, or asking for another sprue. So there we go. But I mean, if you want to talk about shrinkage, go look at the now binned Revell 1/32 F18 F Hornet or the E. The shrinkage on some of the parts on that are an absolute joke. Around the exhaust nozzles, they're unusable. So I wrote to Revell, so can I have some replacements, and the ones they sent me were worse. So there you go. That kit is now binned for those that are wondering. I've binned lots of stuff. So on here, these are obviously where the suspension go. These are the drive shafts come out. So this is basically underneath the floor, so this is all hidden by the wheels. But as you can see, this area here and this area here is quite exposed. You can see in these pictures here, you can see there on the ends, it's quite exposed. So I do want to, deal with any shrinkage there. And there is a little bit. Now this one I've sanded, so you can see on here, you can see where the shrinkage is. You can see on here there's a line down there where the shrinkage is. This one here is untouched, so I can show you the sanding process. But you can see here we've got, catch it line, we have a line around the edge, and then we have two raised areas. And the raised area there is where there's a hole, and the raised area there is where there's an ejector pin mark. So that would imply that they are ejecting the kit a bit early. They should leave it perhaps another 10 seconds. 10 seconds is 10 seconds, and in manufacturing 10 seconds is a lot of time. But when you consider the cost of material that goes into this compared to the retail price of the product, an extra 10 seconds should be easily affordable, in my opinion. The cost of materials in a kit is very, very low compared to its retail price. And people talk about the price of oil and everything going up. Well, just think of it, the weight of this kit, what is it? If you take all the parts off the sprues, what is it? Half a kilo? Half a kilo is half a litre. So when your fuel price goes up by 10p a litre, the price of this should go up by 5p. Okay? So don't talk to me about oil prices with plastic prices. But anyway, so I'll show you on here. So you can see on here we've got, as I said, in the light you can see we've got two raised bumps and a rim around the edge. So all I'm going to do with a 400 grit sanding stick, I'm just going to come over the top, just with light pressure, just sand over, and you can see now where the bumps are being removed by the sanding stick. And if you just keep sanding, this is in free air, it's not going up against anything, so you're not going to cause any fit issues. Okay, if you just keep sanding like this, you can get rid of those bumps. Just go around that corner a bit so we don't get an edge. Okay, and what we'll end up with is just that line around the side. Now you could keep sanding, but I don't want to thin this out too much because it might look a bit silly. And then on the back here you can see we've got, again, around these holes here we have some raised areas. So what looks like a sink is not necessarily a sink, it's a raised area, and what's next to it is correct. It looks like a sink because the area next to it is higher. Okay, so you can see there, we can sand that a bit more, and as good as get rid of it just by sanding. So you can see that there's no shrinkage here now, just a little bit down here and a tiny little bit now next to those fittings, and that's where those lights are going. Oh, this is the front, that's the back. I thought that was the front. So this is the front, so that's where the lights are going to go, and that's where those guards are going to go. Okay, so there we have it. Now there's something going on there. We'll just quickly give that a sand, nothing to worry about. That's where the sprue gate was. That's where the sprue gate was there. So there we are. So that is just about good to go. Now there's a little bit of shrinkage going on down here. It's all covered up by suspension parts. I'm not going to worry about that at all. So that's that done. Now this is like the spoiler, if you like, that goes over the roof. I'm not exactly sure what its function in life is, but there we go. You can see we've got some flash. You can see on these edges here there's some flash which needs to be cleaned up. I won't do that now on camera, but just basically scrape it away with a knife. Just scrape away that flash. Okay, and you can see on the top, because we've got this huge variation in thickness, you can see here we've got like 1mm thick, and then there we've got like 4mm thick. You can see we've got shrinkage. So what I've done, I've sanded over the top just like so. Just sand over the top like that, and you can see that we have those little areas that are still glossy where the shrinkage is. Now you could just sand that away, but you'll lose this shape on the front. It's got like a lip, like a folded edge on the front, so you don't want to do that. So there we go. The roof, again, this spoiler bit fits on here like that, so you know it's going to cover up any shrinkage you've got here anyway, but you can just come in here with a sanding stick, and again you can see where there's a slight amount of shrinkage there. Okay, now I would expect to see shrinkage like this from any manufacturer, so I don't think Airfix have done a particularly bad job, but I do think the quality control in India could be improved, but that's just my opinion. This here is the front bash plate. Okay, so this is the front of the hull, and this is going to fit on there like that. And as you can see where I've sanded it, we've got this shrinkage around here, and again that's because of the section change, so no problem at all. We've got a section change, you've got this plastic here. I mean, you can see, I can measure this. This plastic here is 1.8 millimeters thick, and it's tapering down to nothing, and then you've got that raised edge there. This is crazy. Ah, okay, sorry, it's hollow in the middle. Okay, so you've got this raised edge here. This is what's causing it. You've got this raised edge here, okay, which is, how high is that? 0.75 mil, so that's why you've got shrinkage there. Okay, so that's the reason for that, but that's no problem to get rid of. You can just sand that out, or you can do what we're going to do in a minute. The side panels are probably the trickiest. What I've done here is I've got the sanding stick and I've tipped it over on an angle, so I'm sanding like this, not flat, and just going along into that lower step there, and you can see we've got a tiny little bit here. There's a tiny little bit of shrinkage there, and there's a bit of shrinkage up here. Now the problem here is we've got lovely rivets around that window, okay, and we don't want to lose them, so we'll have to be careful with sanding there. I think that top corner rivet's missing anyway. What I may well have to do is come in with my anise rivets and replace them, but we'll see. And we've also got a bit of shrinkage up here in this top corner there, so we can deal with that. There's shrinkage along the bottom here because of all this. We've got ejector pin marks, we've got holes to be drilled, we've got this step here, we've got flange all down the bottom, so that's why we've got those distortions there. As I say, extended curing time would cure this. So, how do we get rid of it? This is what I use. This is a product called Mr. Surfacer 500. It comes from Mr. Hobby. You can get it from Brooks Models, and you can use my discount codes NMB10 and NB20 to get 10 or 20% off. And what we can do is this is like a paintable filler, if you like. I want the plastic lid to come off inside. There we go. So you can see it's fairly thick. Okay, now I can't really do any modelling at the moment because the weather's so savagely hot and humid and everything, but we can use this hot and humid weather to our advantage, because this is going to dry really quick. Now the other trouble is, when it's as warm as this, you may be able to see it straight, this will actually form a skin while it's open, so you know you have to be conscious of that. As soon as you put a lid back on, it will dissolve. Don't worry about it, it's not going to ruin it. So what we're doing here, I'm looking at on here, you can see we've got just here, just there's a shiny patch, yeah? Okay, so what I'm going to do is just paint some of this Mr. Surfacer on here. The reason I'm doing this was somebody commented on Moss's, I think it was, and said, don't be daft, you're not going to be able to fill those seat marks in with primer. Well, that's why I'm doing this, to show you that you can. Okay, and then here we've got some there, look. So just paint that in there. There's a little bit going on there and there. There's a little bit there. I mean, some of this you'd get away with. Honestly, under a coat of flat paint you won't see it. I'm just going to put a bit in there just to see if I can make it look a little bit better. But But as I say, you would have some distortion in the sheet metal work on the real Vulcan anyway, so don't worry about that. Alright, and then on here we have, I'm going to have to lose that little tab on, there's a little tab on the front, I'm not quite sure what it's for, I have to look at the instructions. I'm probably going to have to sand that away. Okay, so we'll just, in fact I'm going to go right over it. And if it needs to be there, I can add it afterwards with a little piece of strip. And then the same here, paint over that. May as well paint the whole thing, and then we can sand it out afterwards. And then here, I'm going to paint over that as well, and I may have to replace that with a little piece of strip too. But it will be quite clear where it is. After it's sanded, you'll see where it is, because you'll have green plastic, a green plastic rectangle sticking out through the grey primer. And you can see how fast this is drying. You know, it's skidding over already. So there we go, and you can see there how this stuff shrinks when it dries. So you need to be mindful of that. Excuse my fingernails, guys. I'm currently building an engine on my Fiat 131. Nigel's Fiat 131 is a channel you could go and have a look at and sub to. I would be much appreciative if you did. So I'm going to go over there, I'm going to go right over that block again. That's just like looking at this CAD image, and that's where a grab rail is going to go, so we don't need to actually add a piece of plastic strip there at all. We will have the green plastic rectangle marking the X marks the spot. Okay, so there we go. That's that done. Alright, and then I'll do the rest of that later. And then when it comes to bits like this, it's dead simple. Wherever you've got a low spot, just put your Mr. Surfacer in. Just leave it to dry. And on the note of leaving it to dry, I would leave it at least 24 hours, even in this heat, at least 24 hours, because otherwise, you know, even if it's dry enough to sand, if you do it too early, it'll just shrink, and you'll end up with the same thing. It won't be as bad, obviously. There we go. I swear this Mr. Surfacer is thickening up as I'm using it, because it's so bloody hot. If you can hear a buzzing in the background, that's a fan. Okay, so there we go. So that's how to do it. Now this here, I mean, I could put a little bit in there. It's really not required. There we are. And then the same, when you look at ejector pin marks, like on the inside of this roof, there we go, you can see it's skinned over now. You could use this on the ejector pin marks as well, or you can use CA glue. Okay, so you don't really need to worry about these in the roof because you're not really going to see them. But there we go. Okay, so now you've seen how it's done. You don't need to worry about the ejector pin marks inside there, obviously, because they're hidden. But we can just go round and put some Mr. Surfacer where we've got some shrinkage. I'm putting it on quite thick. I know some of you may comment, you're putting it on too thick. The reason I'm doing that is because I know it's going to shrink back. Okay, I'm not after a good finish, so the rule about 2 coats is better than 1. I don't care about the finish. What I'm after is filled in shrinkage. That's all I care about. So there we go. Now this isn't necessarily a start of a build of this model. This is a how to deal with the shrinkage. So if you have got the shrinkage and you've got this model and you do want to deal with it, this is how I go about it. Okay, it's easy as that. Double. Some down there. So you can see it's not that bad at all really. So there we go guys. So we'll call that sinking feeling or something, part 1. And then what I'll do is I'll leave it 24 hours and then we'll come back and we'll look at how we sand it and deal with it from there on. So I'll see you all for part 2 of the sinking feeling very, very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.